What's going on, brother?
What's up, man?
Not much.
Psyched to be here with you.
Dude, welcome to the show, man. So this is the Unbreakable podcast, and
Yes.
we were actually chatting before we got here. We finally were able to dial in a space, number one. We were on a great adventure. It was actually like we were supposed to meet last week.
Yeah.
There was COVID,
Yeah.
and then even I think the week before that there was something that
I had COVID.
Oh yeah. So like
Yeah.
we went through the COVID. Both of us did, and we finally got into a space. And here we are having this conversation. I love this. So before you and I actually even hit record today, we were talking about the word unbreakable.
Yeah.
And how so my company name is The Unbreakable Self, and you were talking about the word unbreakable, how that really resonates with you. So talk to me about what that word means for you.
Yeah.
I think that's a really powerful story.
Yeah. So, unbreakable. I think as men, it kind of falls into that be unbreakable, be tough, be strong. And for me, for a long time, I spent 18 years struggling with drugs and alcohol, in and out of rehabs, in and out of jail, in and out of hospital, all these things. And partially that was fueled by this idea that I was unbreakable, that I was invincible.
Yeah, invincible, like you couldn't be broken.
I couldn't be broken.
Yeah.
I couldn't be killed. And so I was like, I had that kind of like rock on, rah, rah, I'm unbreakable, come at me, like Lieutenant Dan on top of the mast in the storm. so like,
that's the best visual ever, man.
Right?
I love that.
It's like, bring it on. Yeah. And so
You can't take me.
is that all you got?
That's all you got.
So it was like this like reckless, destructive fuel that I was using to like party.
Yeah.
And so like things happen. Like I fell off a balcony 35 feet, which I just found out recently in an ayahuasca ceremony that was actually a suicide attempt.
Oh wow!
I didn't know that at the time. It like came like I can get into that in a minute, but that I got hit by a bike. I got hit by a car on my bike. I had multiple car accidents, like bad car accidents, DUIs, all these things that I was putting into this like I'm unbreakable. I'm like tough and strong. Yeah. And it was just so destructive. Yeah. And so finally, eventually I had to shift that. Yeah. So unbreakable became like this spirit in me, this drive to this like survival. Yeah. And so again, surviving needs to shift from thriving eventually to thriving. Yeah. But like for me, like tapping into an unbreakable spirit, an unbreakable will, an unbreakable like I'm relentlessly going to figure this out. Like, using it as like from destructive to constructive, and just tapping into that and not having that just like fuck it mentality.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I mean, that's essentially the exact same thing that led me into the word unbreakable, and I shared this with you earlier, but for me it was being broken as a man, not knowing which way was up, not knowing how to like what am I doing in this life. And as soon as I let go and let the outer core crack open, and through those breaks I recognize that there's a light. There is a light that is shining, that is moving through me, like that unbreakable spirit, that part of us, that is all of us. Yeah. We have this unbreakable self, and some of us call it our spirit, some of us call it our higher self, that inner knowing, that inner wisdom, whatever you want to call it. Once you allow yourself just to break open, let go of those old identities, those things that you're holding on to, it's like a sigh of relief. Now it's like, oh, I don't have to hold on. Okay. Yeah. Now I can live as my unbreakable self. And that's what led me into even the logo, the phoenix rising, and with the king symbol. That is a very archetypal symbol. You know, I definitely chose it with conscious thought. But it's so true, man. Like sometimes we can think we're unbreakable, and like almost like we are like kind of in an egoic sense, that like especially young men, we're like the hero, and like I cannot be killed, I've had many a moment in my life,
so many
I consciously chose never to buy a motorcycle for that reason. I
Smart.
knew it. I knew it.
Similar.
I knew. I knew that.
Like, that seems a little bit too dangerous.
I know. It's like I know I'm unbreakable, but something in me tells me that one will get me. And I like this life, so I'm gonna stick around. I'm gonna stick around for a while. So let's kind of backtrack actually into your story. You mentioned you had sit with in your ayahuasca experience. We could talk about plant medicine all day. We definitely go that route, but so many ways we can go. Is talk to me about when you recognized you weren't unbreakable from the egoic sense, and that moment, even in a suicide attempt, right? Like when you recognize like fuck, like I am broken. I am like. I'm hurting right now.
Yeah.
Like, walk me through that part of your story.
Wow. That was a slow burn.
Yeah.
Like 18 years. Like, and I used to think it was when I first kind of like got out of that stage of abusing drugs and alcohol. I was 38.
Yeah.
And I looked back and I had it at 5 years.
Yeah.
33 is when I got in a car accident, first trip to rehab, first trip to jail, first arrest for DUI.
Yeah.
I had some other DUIs in the past, but they just kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah.
But as I did work, I
Yeah.
recognized like, no, I was actually 15 years. And then I did more work and I was like, well, if I'm being honest with myself, it was actually like more like 18 years.
Yeah.
Like when things started to go haywire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, realizing that I was broken, it's a conversation. The word broken is accurate.
Yeah.
However, it's something that needs to be a short-term use.
I agree.
Because if you are this is a problem. This is one of the reasons I left AA.
Yeah.
And I have no beef with AA. And like it did a lot for me.
Yeah.
It got me sober. It gave me 6 years. It catalyzed my life to what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, like I had this underlying conversation of like always trying to fix something.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you're always trying to fix something, what you're not saying to yourself, but what you're actually saying to yourself, I'm broken.
Yes.
So if I'm always broken,
yes,
I'm always broken.
Yes.
And
it's accepting the cracks.
It's accepting the cracks,
and then letting the shell just completely fall away.
And it's just like cars are a great analogy for life in a lot of ways. Like one is like if your engine light is not on, you're not gonna take your car to the shop.
Right.
But like if you're a human and you're operating with like just your engine light's not on, but you're in the shop, like what are you doing? Like you're fixing things that aren't broken. So recognizing where you're off track or out of alignment, and aka broken, and addressing that, and then moving on.
And I think we all do get to that moment, and to be honest, I feel like that is the moment for us to catalyze so much healing and release, because what I was mentioning earlier, it's like we can, from an egoic sense, try to we see the shell around us, and that shell is our identity. It's the standards that we live with, that we think like, oh yeah, like this is the way I'm supposed to show up as a man, as a husband, as a provider, whatever that thing is. And if things start to fracture, like the light is getting through, we reject the light, like the part of us that is calling us forward, like a potential, like a greater version of ourselves. We reject it, and then we try to hold on to and we deny the idea of being broken. And you were mentioning it was a slow burn for me too, and I recognized, oh dude, like as soon as I finally accepted, right, like there's a crack, there's a fracture, like I am shitty at this part of my life, like I fucking suck here, right? Like suck, like in like the capital S, right? Like when you recognize and you truly accept that, and you can actually grieve that part of you, because like you don't have to hold on anymore. You have to hold on to the idea of being broken. So I do know what you mean with the sense of like accepting it, but don't own that. Like don't like sit there.
Don't set up camp there. I was just about to say when you can recognize that, okay, I'm not excelling at that part of my life. I suck at that part of my life right now. That part of my life is the wheel. There's the kadunk at that part of my life right now, right? And like thump, like that part's the flat wheel there. But when you can recognize it, like this is just a right now thing. It's not a life sentence. Like I don't have to live here. That's when it becomes manageable. If you and that's part of the thing with like addiction or depression, anxiety, like those things are so oppressive and like all consuming that you're like, this is just how I am now.
What led you into addiction now that you're out, right on the other side?
Oh my gosh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I was like, when I first got sober, I was like, oh, I was just like that guy that liked to have a lot of fun, and it went sideways.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very surface level. It's actually true. There's truth to it.
Yeah.
However,
yeah,
the way that I was liking to have fun, the real root, shame. Shame about who Sam is, like the man that Sam is.
Yes.
The boy that Sam was. It was just rooted in shame and lack of self-worth and lack of self-trust. So the shame when I was
yeah, man, I was doing that. This is raise my hand.
This is why ayahuasca
same guy
was so ayahuasca. There's many things I've done recently that are very important.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca was like one of the most important things I'd ever done in my life. It was not only just ayahuasca, but like going to the jungle for 3 weeks and being in the middle of the Amazon with the Shipibo people disconnected in Peru.
Oh man.
Just I swear to this day, like I could just go do that for 3 weeks and get ample medicine. And then the ayahuasca on top of it is just, it's all magic. But profound. This showed me so many things. Like it showed me the shame. Like I was like, I went there with the intention of just show me what I don't know about why I am like I am.
Yeah.
And like, it's not that, and I wasn't from a place of like, poor me, why I am like I am. I just need to know like what fuels me.
Yeah.
And so, as ayahuasca does, took me all the way back.
Yeah.
All the way back.
Absolutely.
It's like pre-birth and all the places. Right?
All of it. Yeah.
Like you want to know?
We're talking about
here we go. You're gonna know.
And for people that don't know what ayahuasca is, can you explain that?
Okay, so ayahuasca is a root which basically means vine of death.
Okay.
So the ayahuasca root is it grows in the jungle.
Yeah.
And then they brew it. They smash it up with take these wooden mallets and just smash it.
Okay.
Pulverize it.
Yeah.
And then they put it in a big pot.
Yeah.
Heat it up, cook it for like 8 or 9 hours with another plant called the chacruna. Okay. Which is the combination there makes the brew. Yeah. And you've drank it.
I've had
it. For me, it's the thickness of like, I don't even know. Like it's not water and it's not quite mud, but it's like
you gotta put it back.
It's like a light maple syrup.
Yeah.
Like a very amber maple syrup.
Yeah. Like, a little bit of a kick to it.
Well, the flavor is rotten prune juice and Jägermeister.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
And it doesn't get any easier. The more you drink it, does not get. You don't get used to it. It gets worse. By the 12th night, I was like, oh. God. Like, I'm not afraid of what I'm gonna do in the ceremony. I'm afraid of drinking it.
The taste alone,
just stomaching it, and then you get 1 cup with like some of the plant residue in it, like lumpy.
Yeah, and you gotta. I just added a little bit of water to mine and kind of shook it up and just.
It was pitch black when I drank it. They were just like, "Here, drink this."
And
like,
then and so
back to the lesson there. So shame.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was first of all. Birth trauma. When I was born, I had to be emergency section. The umbilical cord was wrapped around my head. So a lot of my struggle in my life, like part of my soul contract here is breath. This is why breath work is so important to me. Yeah. So I was born, umbilical cord wrapped around my head, unable to breathe, born with severe asthma, severe food allergies, and throughout the first 15 years of my life, I had this tendency to choke on my food. So all 3 of those things. So asthma, your lungs are not working correctly. Yeah. Food allergies, your throat closes up, breath. Yeah. Choking, your throat gets blocked, breath. Yeah. So like I have like throat chakra, like it's all past life stuff about not being heard, not being seen. Yeah. An inability to use my voice. Yeah. And there's some things that I've seen about past lives. Like I always go back to Native American. That's like the most recent past life. Okay. And I was hung from a tree at some point. Oh wow! So I have this, noose around my neck, and there's a drowning incident that I have this memory of that my parents say never happened, but I have this like I remember being underwater. Yeah, like, I was there. Like,
and if you've never experienced past lives, I've experienced past lives as well. Yeah. If you've never experienced past lives, like I wouldn't say consider yourself lucky, but it's like it's a whole nother ball of wax.
It opens up cans of worms.
I've been thrust back in even just meditations, thrust back into past lives and felt like a spear was pulled out of my chest. And that one was nuts. That one was crazy because I remember being so upset at the divine, so pissed, because what was happening really was a love of mine at the time, she drowned. And that soul and I chose in that moment that we needed to evolve as souls. So we split apart because we were together for every lifetime before that. And this was, I remember myself just as like a large, like Grecian man. I don't know exactly where I was, but it was just, I was on the shore, I was watching in the water, and she fell over with our children on the boat. Oh. All three of them. And she drowned and the children drowned. And I remember like that feeling. And again, it's kind of nut stuff too, because it's like when you open yourself up to be like, all right, I'm ready to heal. And like you do heal in this lifetime because there's a lot of stuff that we are carrying now, but you have no idea like the consciousness that streams through us that actually is needing to be seen from past lives. Like it's like there. It's like waiting in the wings.
We're like, our DNA is literally a library of all of that.
Yes.
And it's part of, like, you're right. Like you see that stuff, you're like, oh my Lord.
In a way it's also, nuts. Yeah.
But also there's like, I'm so like, the knowledge is so helpful. Like, because like you carry these things around, this breathing thing or this shame, and you're like, I don't feel like, you almost feel unattached to it, but you're like, God, why won't it go away? Because it's not yours.
Yes.
You're carrying someone else's or some past version of you, the past life's version. Like you're carrying the shame for somebody else that's not yours. And so your job in this lifetime is to release that for you and for them. Yeah. And for the future.
Yeah, I feel that. And in fact, and we can go from, obviously you identified, okay, shame is a super important like part that causes us to like kind of feel small in these things. And you were talking about breath work, and for, if anybody doesn't know, I facilitate somatic release breath work, which is a very similar form of breath work. And I recognize the exact same thing. Through inspiration, we allow ourselves to expand, to bring the light that is us, this consciousness, the energetic consciousness back into our vessel. Yeah. And then it's almost like a cleansing process. We can go through this natural primordial expression, and that expression can come out in the most profound ways. It could be shaking, it could be crying, it could be speaking in tongues, it could be screaming, you name it. Like I've gone through the whole gambit, and I found from that incredible healing. So talk to me about how you got into breath work from that perspective. But
so I'll backtrack just a second. So the shame was developed because when I was so sick as a kid, like I felt so different than all my peers. I felt like a burden to my family. And so I embodied shame. I was like, I'm ashamed of who I am. I'm ashamed. And then I get, going through high school and like feeling like that 0 to 8, those cognitive years, those when we're a sponge. I now was having this experience in high school where I am less than, and so I'm less than everybody around me. And this is my, like, it's a default of mine. It's a safe place for me, but it's also, it's shame fueled. So all my addiction was shame fueled. The suicide attempt was shame fueled. Like being so ashamed of who I am, to relieve that shame was just get hammered. And then I become this like, it's almost like I tap into my higher self, but it's like, it's really not, because it's so low vibrational. Back to the breath. So like for me, like one of the things I used to tell myself, like when I was struggling financially or when I was struggling with like depression, it was like, I just need some breathing room. I just feel like I have no breathing room. And and then finally, like 5 years ago, I was like, oh, because of breath. Like it all goes back to breath. And then you were just talking about inspiration, respiration. The root word there is spirit. So the root of breath is spirit.
In spiritu.
So it's just like we're tied. Like our breath is tied to like the cosmic the quantum expansion.
So I want to touch on something actually you just mentioned, and I think that was a really profound, which is an unconscious statement you would tell yourself. I would tell myself something like, I feel trapped in my own life. I feel caged. I feel like I can't get out. Right? And in a way, we subconsciously say these things when that's exactly where we need to go. Like we need to go exactly to whatever that, like you were mentioning, I feel like I need a breath, or I need breathing room. Like there's code, and it's as if like, if you're listening right now, I want you to stop and just like consider like, what statements do you tell yourself? Because we all say things that are that like other people will pick up on.
Yeah.
And they'll notice it. They'll notice your pattern, but you won't notice your pattern because you're just sort of in the servo mechanism, right? You're in the computer of it, like the matrix essentially.
Right.
And when you come out of that and you're like, oh shit, like I do, and then you can dive deeper and like, hey, like why do I say this? What's underneath this? What am I experiencing here? Like there is such profound healing that can happen because it's going to guide you in a path that you need to go, which is so potent.
You're almost like predicting your future. You're leading yourself subconsciously. It's like I believe in two egos.
Okay.
We have a noble ego, which is the one that is doing that, which is leading us to our higher self. We have the destructive ego, which is the one that's like the heavy-handed safety ego.
Ooh.
So it's like, our ego, like we have an ego for a reason. It's safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like when we can realize that, when we can get our ego to agree that safety is growth, and not safety is not staying the same.
Yeah.
Then that's the ego on a team. So that like the language that they're using, the subconsciously or whatever it is, like the breathing room or the trapped, is your ego saying like, we need to go over here. Yeah. And then the other ego is like, no. Like we're safe here being trapped. Like we like being trapped. I like not breathing. Like that's familiar and safe for me.
Is that, I've heard of, okay, so like the little devil on the corner or on the shoulder and the angel, right? It's almost, what's interesting about that, because I've really, I've heard of that aspect, but I've never considered like, okay, the noble ego, meaning you should do this or like go here. But in a sense, is it all still just trying to keep you safe? Does that make sense? Like you're justifying your actions in a way that you know, like, oh, I know that I should do this. I should break through this fear, and we can talk about that for days, that's the path if you wanted to go anywhere, breaking through your fear. But is it, in a sense, because I see that in myself sometimes, I see that in other people that are very close to me, that they're acting nobly, but still from fear, like fear of abandonment. They'll act in a way, like they'll fortify everything around them to make sure that everyone else is safe or stable, so that those other people don't feel abandoned because they feel abandoned. Does that make sense? Yeah. Is that kind of what you're describing?
It's the conversation that the egos are having. Yeah. Yeah. Like so that person would have to look at that like, okay, like let's go with divine masculine. Like yes, protector, right? Like that's good. Like your job is to make people around you safe, the feminine energy around you safe, your kids, your mom, your sister, your girlfriend, whatever it is. Yeah. But if you're doing that out of an insecurity, like if I don't do this, they're gonna leave me type situation. Yeah. It's gonna fall on its face. Like you're always, there's gonna be there's a ceiling there, and it's coming a lot faster than you think. But
it's more of a floor that just falls out. You're like, what?
Like where am I?
Wood chipper. That's a good analogy. Yeah, I got thrown through that.
But when you can say like, I am a safe vessel for myself, like I can hold. Like this is, and we were talking about this before we were getting on the air too, about range versus a switch versus a dial. Yeah. So like if you're basically doing that with the intention of, that's a control thing. You're trying to control. You're basically trying to control other people by making yourself appear valuable. Yeah. And so that is very fragile existence. Yes. Because like any little thing.
That's a very breakable existence.
Very breakable existence. Exactly. Yeah. A little gust of wind comes and you're gonna fall. Your house is gonna blow right over. Yeah. Yeah. But when you can tap into like the rooted, grounded version of that, the authentic, transparent, honest, trusting, loving, courageous version of that, then that is sustainable, because that's all higher self stuff. And when we get into our higher self, like that's why like when you get into a flow state, or when you get like when things are going well, and like when you find a job, when you find your purpose and your passion, you love it. Yeah. It doesn't feel like work, is because it's not. It's just it's like you're in complete alignment with where you're supposed to be. And you're not trying to manipulate, trying to control, your hands are off the wheel. Yeah. It's like you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. Yeah. Like that's where to be in that place is amazing.
I love that, because I think that was like one of the questions I had, which is like when your noble ego gets in the way, like it's not like I want to call it the malicious. What was the word you used? About the two egos, the noble ego.
Okay, so the noble ego is the one that guides you towards your higher self. The destructive ego is the one is the heavy-handed safety, like destructive.
So the destructive ego, right? So I even see the noble ego as getting in the way for me because it's so like subtle. It's subtle, but it keeps me safe from stepping in. Like example, I was expressing my masculine power, my masculine leadership. And I literally learned this like a couple days ago. This is how recent this is, right? This is so funny that my noble ego would get in the way. That if I stepped into my fullness, like my motherfucking power, that it made my wife shut down because I know for her it created instability. It created almost like a force of like, boom, like, and that can be scary. Like, frankly, that can be scary for people around us. And so my noble ego would get in the way. And now the reason I bring that up is what was really in the way, if there was like this bubble, that bubble was or veil was fear, right? The fear of my wife either abandoning me, leaving me. I'm losing my feminine steward, like who I deeply, deeply revere. If I step in my power, then she's going to have fear. Like she's going to react the way she does. The evidence comes back to me. Oh, I can't do that. So then I go back into my shell. And recently I went through a deep healing and recognized that this part of me was not being expressed, this masculine essence, like this leadership aspect. And because of that, I wasn't providing well and I wasn't protecting well. And like, frankly, when you step into that power, it can be scary for you and for others around you. And the reason I bring that up is my ego is in the way, and I step through that veil of fear and towards a greater version of myself, allowing for the old self to break away, accepting the fact that, yeah, like I'm not getting it right. Like I'm kind of shitty at things sometimes, and it's okay. And it's okay, and I fully accept that. And now it's embodying on the other end, what is that new potential? What is that new version of self? And I think going towards that, I kind of come back to the unbreakable self thing, but like that's going towards higher self. So the reason I bring that up is kind of, do you agree with that mentality, right? So like yours is destructive ego and noble ego, but what I'm saying is noble ego doesn't necessarily guide us to our higher self, but rather is still there as almost a justification of keeping us like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. I'm fortifying my coffers because, I don't want to be completely broke, right? Or I'm going to make everybody else around me safe. I'm going to put pillows down around everybody else kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I would say is that experience that you had was a move from destructive ego to noble ego. So like the initial reaction that you had, or that stepping in your masculine, came from a destructive ego place. Yeah, because it was fear based. And so like your ego was like, it's easier to do this than it is to feel the fear. And so it went from destructive, but as soon as you took ownership and noticed, like, okay, that was a shedding of a layer. That was a snake shedding its skin. Yeah. A metamorphosis of sorts. Yeah. Now you step into, like, you recognize now you shifted from the destructive ego to the noble ego. Now your noble ego is tapped into, like, okay, I need there's a different way to do that, a better way to do that. That makes my wife feel safer, that I show up safer. Okay. And now another thing about that too. Yeah. Is that we have to be careful to not take on other people's stuff. Yes. So if your wife got scared there, that there's something, yes, there's an ownership part in you. Yeah. But at the same time, like, what's making her scared about that? Like, right. Are you calling her forward, or is she just saying something that's like you said, like the power can scare people. Yeah. But the power can also call people forward. Yeah. Because again, life is. I feel like life is two things. Yeah. Triggers and integrations. Like there's a trigger there for you got triggered, she got triggered, everyone got triggered. Everyone got triggered. Now you got to integrate that. Yeah. And once you the triggers kind of like dust settles, then you integrate that, and like, your relationship's stronger. She's a stronger person. You're a stronger person going forward. So let's call that, like, for just super easy purposes, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like the trigger aspect, that's our fragility. That's our break. That's where we're broken. Like we're attached to outcomes. We're in our ego. We don't know where to go.
and we go into integration. We live as a greater version of ourselves. The best way to describe it. You mentioned to me when we were chatting, just even via text, that you have a system to go from one to the other. Can you walk me through that process on how you both for yourself and coach others?
Yeah. So a trigger is always how do I say this? The trigger's only bad if the trigger gets repeated. So if you get triggered and you respond out of fear or anger, lashing out, go get drunk, fall into depression, something like that. That trigger didn't do its job. Yeah. Or you didn't listen to the trigger properly. Yeah. But like if you get triggered, you're like, whoa, I just got triggered. Like, what's going on there? Yeah. And like I'll notice it. Like I've done so much trigger work that it's like I'm like it happens all the time every day. Yeah. Like I'll be in a Starbucks and I'll see something that like makes me feel insecure for a second. I'm like, whoa. What was that? But it's
like the new price of a latte. Yeah. What? $6.
Green tea went up 50 cents. Like, I know. No, I can't.
Scarcity.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then so this is where this process comes in. So important. Yeah. Immediately clear that trigger. Immediately clear it. Shake, literally shake your body. Yeah. Take a breath. Yeah. Like a physiological response is the first step.
So movement, like physical movement, and just like breathing, do whatever you need to do.
Right. And so I take my clients through the process to get to the point where that actually works. Yeah. Because you have to know what you're doing and the intention behind it. But if I'm triggered, like I can run my brain through a quick little like process of like, okay, that triggered me. Like what's real? What's a lie? Like why is that trigger? Like reverse engineer it all the way back in a matter of 30 seconds. Yeah. And then get back into alignment. Yeah. So the process is clearing. Yeah. So like clearing anything, some people call it catch and release. I just clear it. Yeah. Like acknowledge it, become aware of it. Yeah. Say, okay, I'm triggered right now. What is that doing for me? Yep. And it happens. Everyone, if you're listening to this podcast, you're gonna think, oh, so I'm gonna be triggered all the fucking time. Like, yes, and it's beautiful.
As part of the process, actually, I would actually agree. And to give a little bit of insight, trigger is just a trauma response. And trauma comes in many forms. It's not what happens to us. It's how we embody the experience. What meaning? Because we were actually talking about this in the car on the way here. We're like always trying to put meaning to everything. Even these extra worldly experiences like past lives. Like, what does this mean? You know? Yeah. But all you got to do is just allow, right? Like just witness the experience. You know? And so when we're a child, we have no prefrontal cortex, a rational mind to recognize, oh, well, when I'm dancing and my dad yells at me because I'm in the front of the TV, it's not because he's trying to shut me down, from expressing my authentic movement. He just wants to watch the fucking Packer game, you know, like it's going to be all right, you know? And so, when we experience these events, we store that in our biologic memory. That's literally how it's stored, and it gets encoded into our DNA.
It's forgotten up here, remembered down
exactly,
here.
Exactly. And so, like, we both have read that book, The Body Keeps the Score, and that is what happens. And then there's literally this part of our brain, the limbic system, that gets in the way. It's the bridge. And when we go through these processes, and the reason I bring this up is because when you move from trigger, because trigger is just like the awareness of like a trauma response.
I welcome triggers now at this point. Yeah, like, I'm like, show me all my triggers so I can just clear them out. Yeah. Like, I'm just, and like, once you do the big ones are tough.
Yeah, the big ones are,
But once you do the big ones, the little ones pop up, and it literally, it's like, okay. Yeah. It's like breathing.
It's like like water. Yeah. Yeah, it's like...
And that's another thing. Is like, so The Untethered Soul, have you read that book?
I have. Yeah.
So he talks about the samskara, the Sanskrit word for stuck energy. A trigger is a stuck energy is a trigger. And so like if you can and this is one of the beauties of the life skill that I picked up from Bufo. Yeah. Is keep things free flowing. Like stream of consciousness journaling is so much more, it's about teaching you how to free flow. Ooh. And like in meditation is the same way. Like when we're in meditation and we get stuck on like our to-do list pops up and we're like, oh fuck no, I can't. Yeah. Then for 5 minutes you're thinking about your to-do list. Whereas if you just say like, okay, hey, to-do list, keep going.
I like to have so I actually worked with a therapist because I have ADD, and like we were talking about that squirrel, like what's that? And getting things done was hard because I would try to fixate I'd be like, oh, because I'm all over the place, I would try to fixate on the one thing and then shame myself because I wasn't getting something done. And when she taught me, hey, just keep literally like a diary or a piece of paper next to you, and that's just going to be your brain dump. And anything that comes to mind, don't stop. And I actually, now I think about it, I need to go back to this because I stopped doing this for a while because I was getting stuff done at that point.
Yeah.
It was so profound because I literally, like, if something came to mind, I would just write it down really quick and go right back to what I was doing. And at the end of the day, I actually not only got what I was going to get done, but so much other stuff without thinking about it. And I was like moving fast.
Yeah.
And, like so much stuff. And so like having a piece of paper that it's almost like you just write it out, just like put it on paper. I love that because like stream of consciousness allow that flow. When you clear, when you allow that.
It's also the actual act of writing with a pen and paper.
Yeah.
Is very important. Like typing it into a computer is not going to cut it.
Interesting.
Because like something about like it's just like it's our human body. Like something about like that direct line. I call it. I go third eye, heart, hand. So you're aware of it, and then you just let it literally drop from your head, and just like I imagine it like. A thought like as an entity, as like a solid thing. Like in that movie, Upside Down or Inside Out.
Oh, Inside Out. Yeah,
They have those like core memories
movie.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like I imagine like a little like I give it a color and I just say okay dropping and I imagine it out through my right arm onto the paper.
That's super fast. So we gotta look up. If you're listening and you can find some neuroscience on this, because I actually agree with that, but I have not found the science on that, and I bet there is something to that.
I've heard it so many times.
I feel that, though. I actually enjoy a whiteboard. Like, put me in front of a whiteboard, and I am the happiest dude. I'm like, yes! Wow, let's create so much space that I can move my body, we all over the place, which is so funny.
You like that Always Sunny in Philadelphia scene when he's got like, he's like all cracked out and he's like got the red lines everywhere.
What a great show, by the way. Yeah. We could go there. Okay, so take me back. Once you're triggered, you're aware of your trauma response. You do the clear, which is that your somatic work, your body work?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so if it's one that I feel like we have there's levels to these triggers. Mm-hmm. Like if we have ones that like always get us, like for me, money's one of them. Like scarcity is a big trigger for me.
So many of us.
Insecurity, like less of a man.
Yeah.
Like that's one. Like when I get around like super successful or whatever dudes, I've had experiences where it's like, oh man, and I did a post about this. Like I focus so much on what I am not.
Yes.
That's the trigger for me. What I am not.
Yeah.
And then that now that I'm aware of like, okay, that's me focusing on what I am not, but like let's go back to what I am.
Yeah.
Like I mean, look, we're sitting here like doing a podcast about men's work. Like this is important work, and like
absolutely
we're big. Like so like if I stay in like the one I am not, of course I'm gonna get triggered all the time because
absolutely
I'm not anybody else. Like
correct.
If I can,
you're not even that figure that sits in front of me.
No, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. Like it's to basically release that thought, release that judgment, that comparison, that shame, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So this is why I welcome triggers, is because they show me these things of like where I'm out of alignment. So yeah. So the clearing is either like breathe, a deep breath. Like when they say take a deep breath, like everyone's like it's been told to us forever. I now know the importance of it. Like, take a deep diaphragmatic breath. Hold it at the top. Let it go at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's really about, like, doing anything that shifts your physiology a little bit.
Yeah.
So, like, literally, like, a lot of people... I remember years ago I was told to, like, if you're walking and something triggers you, take 3 steps backward and then walk again. It basically resets that little period.
That's super fascinating. So, I was listening to a guy named Dr. Feldman out of UCLA on the Huberman Lab podcast, actually.
Oh, he's
by
brilliant.
the way, yeah, so good. Like, if you guys like science, definitely dive into that podcast.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the reason you actually take these deep sighs subconsciously. It's as if I think it's 5 per minute, which is a lot. We don't think about that, but And what's happening is that we have these little sacs we call alveoli in our lungs, and those over time, because they're lined with a liquid called surfactant, and those over time will start to slowly kind of collapse just a little bit. And what happens is you don't you're no longer able to get oxygen to cross that barrier. And so what they found after they were working with polio and victims, or patients rather, I don't want to say the word victim, because no one's a victim. Polio, yeah, right. You can go victim mentality real quick. Working with trigger? What? I'm not a victim.
Why you call me victim?
with polio patients, is that they would put them in an iron lung. And what they recognized is that they had a lot of mortality when they didn't periodically increase, because they would just have them on a consistent rhythm. And when they would get one deep sigh every minute or every 5 minutes, their increase in lifespan was profound. It was like astronomical. And this is like back in the early 1900s, like when polio was obviously still around. And what's very fascinating about that is that what we're doing is that we're expanding those alveoli and we're opening them back up to allow for the flow of oxygen. So if you are, like, for instance, triggered, that's a physiological response. We are experiencing and embodying in that moment some emotional experience, an old pattern, an old pattern neurologically. And so by breathing in and you're opening up your lung centers, you're calming your nervous system, and you're actually expanding, allowing literally for oxygen, that light force energy from trees and everything. Yeah. Because everything's connected. I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't get it. But I'm separate from that thing. It's like, no. Like, we all live in the same soup. You know, like, it's like the
trees feel pain, we feel pain.
Yeah,
trees breathe, we breathe. Yeah.
It's the I forget the name of the guy that had this commencement speech that was like talking about fish and water. I'm gonna blank on this. Somebody's gonna correct me on this. But it's like the fish is like, the old fish swims by the young fish and is like, how's the water? And then the young fish are like, what's water? And they're like, oh, yeah, we're all in this soup that's connected to literally everything. Yeah. And that soup is energy. And so anyway, we can come back to energy here in a second. But the main component is we expand lungs, we allow for energy to come in, and now our nervous system can regulate. And now okay. And so by actually consciously choosing that, you're actually allowing yourself to regulate your nervous system. You're clearing, like you use that word clear, you're clearing your body.
Clearing your space.
Exactly, you're clearing your space.
Creating space.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So after you clear, what do you do next?
So clearing, aka creating space, like bandwidth clearing. Yeah. So like the thing about the clearing and what's next is that we have bandwidth is finite. Yeah. And it's a human experience.
What's bandwidth? Talk to me about that.
So bandwidth is like your ability to think, act, behave, respond, communicate.
Your level of reaction.
Like your level of humanness, basically. Yeah. And so, but like if we have clogged up with these old stories, these old patterns, these triggers, like all these things, like that's like, your bandwidth is full of that. And so like you have no room to react out of clarity. You're in fight or flight or freeze.
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah.
So you have no space to react to. That's reacting. When you have no space, it's like a quick knee jerks. Yeah. When you have the space,
you're reacting. You're acting on something that your pattern is.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
But like when you can, so then you remember the old computers? They had like the PCs had the disk defrag. It's like all those little things, and you compress it, and you have all this space. That's what what this process does. Okay, it's a giant disk defrag.
That's so good.
So what
a great analogy. Such an old concept though. Like, and when I say old, that was only like 15 years ago when I had to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember doing that.
So like when your computer's like, basically you have a lot of free space, but it's clogged up and bogged down. So all this clearing it does is it just creates the space in your bandwidth. So now the next step is alignment. And so now we have the space in the bandwidth, and now you actually have the awareness of your triggers. You have the tools, the somatic releases, the creating space, the breathing, the moving, the dancing, whatever it is, primal screaming. Yeah. You have all these tools. Yeah. So now you have the opportunity to align with your purpose. I call it your North Star. Like that's what my thing is. Like I want men to be relentlessly on the path to the North Star all the time.
How do they know that they're on the, like, how do they know like that's the North Star, not like some other star that's out there? Like, cause I was on, like, for me now, I know.
Yeah.
and this is it, right? This is an example of it. And there's like, we're talking about multi-passionate, but I was everywhere. I was like, bing, 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 for a long time.
Yeah.
So how do you know? Like, if you had a
energy, it's your energy.
Yeah.
So like we operate like what feels good, what doesn't feel good.
Yeah. So it's a feeling.
It's a feeling, and but you notice
and
it
you
like
just know.
if you like. So say like this is another trigger example, but like something that knocks you off your path. You got triggered and knocked off your path. Like, so if you're like, say like, I like the 1 to 11 scale because I like the number 11, but it's the one more than 10. I love it. I'm full send.
Yeah.
But let's fucking go.
Let's go.
So 1 to like you're operating at like an 11 one day.
Yeah.
Like fucking did my morning routine. I was in the pool. Like yes. And then you walk into a place and it's like, oh fuck. Like I'm in a 4.
Yeah.
Like what happened here?
Yeah.
Like what does this place remind me of something? Like is there somebody like something what happened?
Yeah.
So like now that's a micro. On a macro level, like if you get depressed or you get anxious a lot or you feel unfulfilled or angry, like these things crop up.
Yeah.
It means that you're out of alignment. You're out of whack.
Yep.
You're off track. You lost your path to your North Star.
Yeah.
So now you just realign. And so when you clear away, like when you handle all those traumas and those stories and those programs and whatever else, and however that shows up in your life, depression, anxiety, addiction, whatever it is.
Yeah.
When you clear that stuff, you have this defragged.
Yep.
You have all this bandwidth, free bandwidth now that you can put in whatever you want to put in there.
Yes.
This is where like my movement is called the full fuck yes frequency.
I love that.
So this
is full fuck yes frequency. That's so good.
This is where you get the opportunity to tap into that. Like, what's a full fuck yes for you?
Yeah.
More of that, please.
Yes.
And then because now the reason that this works is because you're not coming from insecurity, fear, trauma, dangerous masculinity anymore. You're coming from safe masculinity. You're coming from divine masculinity. You're coming from love, from connection, from peace, from grounded behavior. Like, and this is where true alignment happens.
Yeah.
Because you've cleared. Like when you're operating from those traumatic places, like those bad places. You're not going to get it. Of course, you're going to be all over the place because you have no fucking clue what you want.
Right.
When you clear that and you have all this space in your body, this range, this bandwidth. You can like, okay, this is what I want. Like, I want to have a house in Tulum, and I want to have a house in LA. Awesome. I want to drive a Ferrari. Cool. I want to speak Spanish. Awesome. I want to go to Mars. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like, let's fill this massive bandwidth. Let's get in true alignment of your North Star. Is what do you want to? How do you want to die? That's your North Star. When death comes, where do you want to be? That's your North Star.
I like that actually because for me, for the longest time, and I think all men are. In speaking to men like very, very directly right now, all men have this drive to service. And I feel like it's part of the masculine structure. And not I know. It's just, it is. It's part of the masculine structure. To dive deep into a work and steward that. That is who we are. That's our king within. We are of service. And we are always seeking that. And if we're allowing for the life around us, like, essentially society to dictate who we need to be, go to this school, get this job, get this car, get this money, get this house, if we're allowing society to dictate that to us and we just start to push down like, nope, don't listen to that. I'm not going to be an artist. Got to be this lawyer, like we push down. That alone is enough pressure to make a man explode, which I was there, I was like, I did all those things, went to graduate school, did it, I'm gonna call myself a doctor and these, like, right. And I used to claim that shit. I used to be like, yeah, I'm this man, like to create egoic significance. Cause I thought I could win if I had this, I'm powerful if I am this man. And in reality, what happens is that pressure just pushes us down, and by exploding, literally like going through that somatic release. So you're talking about like, and if people don't know, somatic, means body. It's Latin for body. Soma, our experiences live in our body, and by clearing that, now we have all this ability to feel something totally new, something totally fresh, and you don't have to feel that feeling of fear or shame or guilt or grief or what if or whatever that thing is. You don't have to feel that. Like, it's like getting rid of all the noise, cleaning your room. That's an example. Is clean your room, and then all of and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it feels fresh. Yeah, like we all know what feeling is.
Clean my room, my brain calmed down.
Yeah, right. How'd
that happen?
Like actually funny. Yesterday I was at my desk, and I had my all my podcast stuff set up because I was doing a Zoom call with somebody, and I'm like, man, this desk is like fucking mess, and it was cluttered. And there was papers and receipts and these things. And usually I like to keep a clean desk. And I just remember thinking like, I got so much fucking work to do. I don't have time. And then my intuition was like, nope, stop, clean this desk. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did.
Yeah.
And then it's like clear. And then I'm like, oh, and then I was super hyper focused. I was able to get more shit done in like a quarter of the time.
Yep.
And that is like, go to the clearing first.
Dude,
go to the clearing first.
Inside out game.
Absolutely. Inside out game.
Yeah.
Inside out. So you align, right? So now alignment, so correct me if I'm wrong. Alignment for you is tuning in. Like if I had to think about, not think. Let's get out of our head. Let's get into our body. If I had to feel into what's right now, right? And for me, I remember thinking, I need to find my purpose. Also a worthiness issue. I would always try to jump to the end result, right? Instead of just being like on this little stone. Like the analogy for me switched in my head, again, very recently. It's funny how like recently, I've been learning for so many years and like just recently.
By the way, I'm admitting that it's recently, noble ego.
Yeah.
I want to say like 10 years ago. Like,
it was
like 10 days ago.
Yeah, no, it was like 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it was, I think, like 3 weeks on this specific lesson, which is, stop looking to the very, very end. Like, stop trying to create a company or a mission or whatever. Just like, what's right now? What step are you on? What stone? And actually, I saw a river, and it was foggy, and I couldn't see the other side of the river, and I knew I was on a stone. Like, you ever like hop across stones to get so you don't get wet?
Yeah.
It was like that, and I just like hopped on to the next stone. I'm like, I'm just gonna be here for a second. Oh, I'm gonna hop to that stone, and I can't go backwards either, and I can't jump too fast forwards because then I'll stumble and I'll fall in, and then you get all wet and you don't want to get all wet. But what I recognize is like, oh, like my purpose is now. My purpose is here. My purpose is right in this experience, and to express and to be, and just not worry about the editing, not worry about like when is this going to go up? It's like just
not even worrying about what we're going to talk about next.
I know.
What are we talking about right now?
I know. Like what are we going to talk about? No, like don't worry about any of that. Just be like, and so the purpose doesn't have to be something profound. It can just be like, hey, I can sit with another man, and I can just sit. Now we're on an audio, so we don't want to just sit with no noise.
No, that's awkward.
Then it gets weird.
Dead silence.
I know, right? I have sent audio messages when I'm like, my mind is blown to people, and it's like, this is an audio message with no noise, and it's just like a minute of nothing.
I know. And I want to like delete it and resend.
I know.
I'm like, I don't know what to say right now.
It's so good. It's so good, right? Yeah. So okay, going back, we were talking about alignment and just being in the now, just being in like the present moment. That can be your purpose for now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's never not now.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I just forgot what I was going to say.
That's all good, man. Squirrel. We were talking about. Well, I kind of stole your rhythm.
It's all right.
Which was you were talking about. We clear the body. We align. You are aligning to your North Star. And I asked the question, how do you know?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's funny you said, how do I know?
Yeah.
Because what I'm about to say is let go of the how.
Ah.
Like, so we when we think about that end result, our big thing is like, okay, so I have to do this, and then 3 years I'm going to do this, and then 5 years I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And so you're most likely setting yourself for failure. Yeah. Because second of all, you're closing yourself off to all the possibilities. When you attach yourself to how, like, say, okay, I want to be a millionaire. Awesome. What do you think? How are you going to do that? You're probably going to say, start a company, make money, make $100,000 this year, make $500,000 next year, and then I'll make $1 million the third year.
Yeah.
Or you could walk out of this restaurant we're in right now and find a bag on the street with $1 million in it.
Right.
But what if you just like, no, that's not how I'm supposed to do it. Like, I see a bag, like, oh, it's someone else's $1 million. Like, no, that's how it was supposed to happen. Like, when you can let go of the how, that's when magic happens. Let go of the how, and like you said, show up in the present moment and do what the present moment requires you to do.
Yeah.
That's it.
And if we want to get even deeper, don't want to take away from that point, because that point was really powerful. But I always love to ask a question, because I had to ask myself this: why do I want the $1 million?
Oh, dude.
Right now we're gonna get into the weeds. Like
I have a great analogy for that.
Oh, fuck. Well, I want security. It's like, or I want to feel stable.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why do I want to feel stable? Because I want to feel love, right? I want to feel like stable. I want to feel secure. I want to feel like, but what am I really looking for in the security? It's like, a nice home with my wife and my kids, and I want us to feel like pleasure and joy and connection and love. I was like, I'm just gonna go to love. I'm just gonna do that. Fuck the $1 million. Don't worry about the money. The money will come. If love is present in that context, whatever happens, happens. Even if I'm broke, even if I, got a less than, and I have been here, I had negative like $1,200 in my account. This is like a few years ago.
Yeah.
I remember I went to the grocery store because I had to pay rent and mortgage and all these things. I went to the grocery store and I couldn't buy groceries. That was a fucking moment.
Been there.
That was a fucking moment.
Yeah.
And I had kids at home.
Man,
dude,
not been there.
Dude, yeah. And I remember that moment. Talk about break, right? Like, I was so enraged, and my trigger was like lash out.
Well, you weren't enraged. You just like
I was so
rage was like rage is an easy cover up, and you would have been mad at yourself, but like really what you were feeling was like, I'm less of a man.
I was deeply, deeply embarrassed.
Yes.
Like deeply.
Yes. Shame.
So much shame.
So much shame.
So much shame. And
such an evil fucking.
It's crazy because, and if you can like announce your shame, I think that's the first step.
Well, just yesterday, I saw this quote years ago, and I saw it again just yesterday. Shame dies when the stories get told in safe places.
Ooh, shame dies
when the stories, because shame is like, I have a story that I'm not worthy because I have minus $1,200 in the bank account and I have kids at home. That shame, when you tell that story in a safe place, the shame dies.
In the presence of an empathetic wisdom, healing can occur. I heard that literally yesterday. That was a quote.
Said differently. Beautiful.
That is so funny. I read that quote literally yesterday, and I don't know who quoted that. I apapologize if you said that. Listening.
This is the importance of men's work.
Yes.
Those two quotes are why men's work needs to happen.
Fucking powerful. That's exactly it. Because that is honestly because I created my own men's network for myself without knowing really what I was doing. I was like coming from ego, thinking we're going to be even more significant and we're going to do all the things and win all the wins, And those two men have led me into the deepest parts of my soul. And we don't necessarily meet regularly anymore, but every time I get together with them,
they're there.
Yeah, they're there. Absolutely.
And you guys did the work and cleared a bunch of shit.
So much shit.
And now you're it's like you're off on your own, spreading your wings now.
Yes.
Because like it's the perfect example is like you go from this to this.
Yeah. I even take a side. I feel so good.
My inner child is like.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah,
we're fragile.
But like my higher self, the man that I am now, is like this, and like I a lot like daily want to go back to here.
Yeah.
And I gotta remind myself, no, that's not it anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't serve at all.
Yeah. Ah, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. All right, so we were talking about alignment.
Yeah. Getting into alignment, and I have a great mantra for how is I love acronyms, so I did.
Me too.
It's good. You're gonna like this one. IDK, IDC, IDM.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
How? And it's scary as fuck to let go of the how because masculine, we want to plan, we want to fix.
Yeah.
Like to let go of the how, but like I have the lesson never. It's like every time I go to the gym when I'm in a bad mood, it blows my mind how much it helps every time.
Every time.
Every time I let go of how, it blows my mind how much easier things get.
Always.
It's so crazy.
It's so nuts.
And my dad had this, I was a tennis player growing up.
Yeah.
Got like high-level tennis player, professional tennis player after college.
Yep.
But my dad had this thing, like when I was on the court, I make unforced errors, like because I was the full send tennis player, like I wanted to hit a winner on every shot, like. I hit every ball as hard as I could.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, you make so many unforced errors.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I was like hitting the ball hard, and he's like, it's like the 2x4. You're like, how many times do you have to get hit in the head with a 2x4 before you say that hurts? This is the same thing. Like all these lessons, like I am that like hard-headed, whatever you want to call it, like stubborn.
Yeah.
Like I need to get hit in the head a lot.
Yes.
And it's getting less. Like I'm getting better at it Because now I have evidence now.
Yes.
And I can pay attention to evidence.
That's so funny.
But it's just amazing what happens when you actually.
I feel like men too, especially we are a special kind of stubborn. we have like this gear in us that's like, I can keep going. And it's actually those moments in life, and we're kind of coming back to the idea of being unbreakable, those moments in life where we actually are broken that are the best. We always talk about that too. I feel that those moments, like me not being able to pay for groceries that day, was one of the best moments of my life, because it finally brought forward something that like I was deeply ashamed about. And here's the interesting thing too. I wasn't even able to process. I didn't have the knowledge or the wisdom on how to process the shame in that moment. But the gig was up, right? The gig's up, brother. You know,
that was the turning point.
Broke as a joke. You know, time to fucking change this. And I even one of the people that I was ashamed about essentially was my father-in-law, because my father-in-law had done very well for himself. And I always felt so much pressure to live up to this expectation to provide for his daughter, because I deeply revere my wife and I deeply revere the feminine. And I felt, because of this innate thing in men, that I had to provide to the same level, but I wasn't there, and I couldn't possibly be there in where I was. And when I say done well, I'm like done very well, right? Very well. And so every time I would be around, I would like try to not feel shame. I would try to not feel like I was the outsider.
I'm not that. Right.
Yeah. Like that I'm, I can be, and I remember one day, like I was asking him business advice because he was successful in business. And I was telling him like the story and my word of like cash flow. I keep coming back, I'm just overcoming this cash flow. And he's like, man, you need a pattern interrupt. Like, and I was like, and he like called me out, and I was like, grr, like moment. And I was like, oh fuck. But here's the thing: is because he's been through it too. Yeah. He was able to hold that for me.
Trusted resource.
And exactly. And because I felt so much shame in relation to him, his level, and how I was showing up for my wife and my children, right? Like for him to say that without any sense of like, you're wrong, he just was like, yeah, you just need this. And I was like, that was deeply healing, even in that moment.
I feel it right now.
Yeah,
like, I feel
it was like
healing.
Oh, dude, like I don't have to live up to this expectation, because he doesn't have any expectation of me. He knows exactly what I've experienced because he went through it, and he now is living this life. And I was like, oh fuck, like like boom, like explosion moment. Yeah, and so now I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to try to jump through hoops. I don't have to do anything. And for him, he probably doesn't remember that moment. It was just a normal conversation for him. But for me, it was like, boom, profound moment, which is powerful. So let's swing back through. Okay. We were talking about clearing.
Yep. And we have a lot. So once you clear, then you become clear.
Yep.
You're a clear channel, so you can see clearly.
Yeah.
And you can see what you want. And what you don't want. Yeah. The filter is alive.
And then you align.
So then you align with how you want to die. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
So that means what's going to happen between now and when you die? Yeah. Make it fucking count. Be on that path relentlessly. Be about it. Be about the higher version of yourself.
I love that.
And if something is a no for you, say no. Something is a yes for you, say full fuck yes frequency. Yeah. Stay in there, man. Yes, yeah. Like if it's a no, say no. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's not coming from a fear, anger, resentment, insecure place.
Yeah.
The third thing is receiving.
Ooh.
So we talk about like now we see this how we want to die. Like I want millions and millions of dollars and 4 cars and 5 houses and whatever else you want.
Yeah.
That's cool. You say you want that. Yeah. What's gonna happen when it starts showing up though? You're gonna reject it.
Yeah.
Because if you've done the work, you'll be able to receive it.
Yeah.
But you have to do this work. You have to clear your somatic body of all the things that your head doesn't know about in order to receive it. Because your head, you can like this is the thing. Like you say, like this is one of the reasons for the longest time I had such a problem with goals, because I was so disconnected right here. Yeah. Throat chakra was blocked. Yeah. So nothing communicates.
Ooh.
And so I like had these goals, but like I'd get close to them, and then my somatic body, which I didn't know about at the time, nah, that's not safe.
Yeah.
$100,000, that's not safe. You know, like $20,000 a month, that's not safe.
Yeah.
But my head's like, no, we want that. Your body's like, fool.
Yeah.
We do not want that, because
Yeah.
that means. And for a long time, it meant to me that if I had that much money, I'd fall back into addiction. I'd start doing cocaine all the time, and that I got over that stuff. So I had to you have to clear all these. So now it's almost like you go back to clearing. But now that you did all the big clearing in the beginning, so now you're like these things start to show. I always say, if you want good shit to fall into your lap, you have to clear your lap and then put your lap where good shit falls.
I'm just gonna sit with that for a second. I love that because
so if you're sitting here, like
you're
like full of shit, and it's like the good shit's falling over here, but you're like over
and
here,
you're like,
oh, I see all that good shit. That's nice.
So there's a myth, which is the Fisher King. Have you heard of the myth? The Fisher King myth?
Yes, but tell me about it.
So the Fisher King is he has an arrow through his testicle, right? He has an arrow through his power source, and he is. This is actually the original King Arthur myth, right? The original. So the Fisher King is at a banquet, and the banquet has, you can imagine, the abundance of food. Everyone there in the entire kingdom is eating and enjoying and like really receiving the abundance, but he can't consume. He can't receive his abundance, even though it's his kingdom. And he sends young Parsifal out on the adventure, and Parsifal, being the hero, essentially, like the sort of the young ego of the same individual, psychologically, goes out and he's undersized, much like Frodo, you know, undersized, young, nubile, doesn't know anything, has to go out on these great adventures and meets these different knights, and has to either work with these different knights, like the Black Knight, the White Knight, the Red Knight, and over either kill these knights or needs to start to essentially embody these knights, right? These new powers, and only until Parsifal goes on the great adventure that he comes back with the antidote, which essentially is wholeness, love.
Got it.
Right? And then the Fisher King can fully embody his power and receive and actually sit and enjoy the banquet, receive, like you were saying, and enjoy the banquet of the feast.
Yeah.
And I feel that what you were describing about your pattern about money, mine almost exactly, just the story I would tell myself was just a little bit different, which is, if I receive this, I can't hold this because I'm not worthy, or if I hold this, then I'll be perceived as greedy or selfish, and if I'm greedy and selfish, then I am separate from other, because I know I love other. But I can't hold this money, and if I hold this money, then people will leave me, and I'll be abandoned, right? Like I won't be loved.
For me, it was that I'll stand out, and then get rejected.
Yes.
And so again, this goes
kind
back
of the same. That was almost exactly the same as mine. That's funny.
And so this, as a kid who's scared of himself, like doesn't want to be seen, feels less than.
Yeah.
To be seen is like all the shame. All you see is my shame.
Yeah.
So like anything I do to stand out or like put myself in a position of being seen.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing we have to look at is, to receive is like, why are you holding on to these things? Like people that are like overweight.
Yes.
Like the part of the reason they have a hard time getting skinny or getting in shape is because they feel safe being overweight.
Yes.
People that are broke feel safe being broke. People with depression feel safe with depression.
Absolutely.
People with epigenetics. I completely believe that like we hold on to all these diseases because they give us security.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and science has proven this, that like over and over again. You know, like it's here's the funny thing. Anytime a scientific journal comes out that has a profound paradigm shift, it takes about 30 to 50 years for the social norm to change.
Yeah.
Even though science, the observation itself is saying this is the observation. It's repeatable. It's fact. This is happening. Like Bruce Lipton's work.
Yes.
That like it's still like you had to say I believe, because it's like, well, what if the listener doesn't believe what I believe?
If I said I believe you should take Lexapro for depression, they'd be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, of course, right? Because like
it's not believe you should.
Exactly, social norm, but epigenetics, absolute like truth. Like we know, like it's been proven,
scientific fact.
Yeah,
like it's a thing.
Yeah.
And so like, why do we hold on? Like, why do you like if someone, whatever it is, like anything that holds someone back, like you're holding on to that. Why are you holding on to that belief or that weight. Like when you can't get someone to go to the gym. Like there's so much more about going to the gym than going to the gym.
So much more.
People think people put the gym in like having it all bucket.
Yeah.
And so like, oh, I can't have it all. So like the easiest thing to cut is the gym.
Yeah.
Or eating well.
Yeah.
Or like body work or cold baths. Like these things they're not accepted normally yet. So they fall by the wayside. But what it really is this person, it's like the lottery winners that go broke. It's not that they're bad with money. I mean, that's the effect, that's the symptom.
Yeah.
But the root cause is that they don't feel comfortable there.
Yes.
They're holding on to because their parents were poor, their parents were poor, they're poor. Generational healing needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like
they'll spend a bunch of money in Vegas and
because
blow it or whatever, however it leaves their hands, it'll leave.
And they can do that, and they can also save money.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel right to them. So they're just it's basically that energy. They're not able to hold the energy of that money.
Yeah.
It's gonna pass right through them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because it's just like for me, depression was like that.
Yeah.
Like I still to this day, like have these moments where I'm like, oh, I would love to just close all the blinds, lay around and do nothing all day.
Yeah.
Because what it is like something I have to do that day scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so like my thing is now like, okay, so you get up earlier.
Yes.
I make myself get up and do the thing, go in the pool, go to the gym. Like, when you feel that coming on, I just show up.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Just do because I know now.
Yeah.
That like, I getting out of the house and just doing something, and I show up, and it turns out better than I thought it would, and more evidence.
Yes.
That like do it the right way.
Yeah.
But so people hold on to disease, they hold on to stories, they hold on to all these things. So in order to receive, you have to, this is why I say I have to kind of go back to the clearing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we cleared away all that stuff, and we did that, and now we have the tools.
Yes.
We practiced it in a safe place with big things.
Yep.
Now, you're going to clear some more stuff constantly.
Yep.
But it's little things, and it's easy.
Yeah.
And so, but like when you talk about what you want, and it's coming, and it comes, and you either like, this is why I was at Sacred Sons, and one of the leaders was like, I don't believe in self-sabotage, and I'm like, what? Like, that's my whole like basis.
I've been doing that forever.
Yeah.
That's the reason I do what I do.
Right. Like, that's why I don't have anything nice. And so, or I didn't used to anyways.
Yeah.
So I pulled him aside. I was like, you got to tell me.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, here's the deal. He's like, it wasn't self-sabotage. I'm like, but I had this amazing girl, and we broke up, and I did this thing, and she left. He's like, no. He's like, yeah, you had it, but what happened was that you weren't that person yet.
Yeah.
So you didn't sabotage anything.
Yeah.
You just weren't the person to hold that yet.
Yeah.
So you can't sabotage anything. You just haven't become the person. You haven't built the somatic body to hold that thing, to receive that.
Yeah, and it's not in your nervous system. If we want to talk about somatic body, right? Yeah. Like your nervous system has to literally change neurologically and fundamentally, like your mind-body component. Because mind-body is one. I don't mean, yes, they're different words, but it's the same. Yeah. It's like they're directly linked. And I was going to bring that up too, because, and I'm glad you mentioned that, when I've received large sums of money, even in my recent history, like last year, it still felt like, oh, I can stop now. I don't have to keep going, right? I'm safe now. Yeah. And then I'm like, because I was doing all that work, clearing and aligning, and then I received a sum of money that I was like, evidence, there it is, ha ha ha. Yeah. I can use the law of attraction. I have made manifest that which I chose. I am a great manifester. Yeah. And then it went away over the course of about 7 months. Yeah. And because I just sort of like took my foot off the gas. And now, to be fair, I've done a lot of work since then, and now I'm like, all right, what's next? Well,
it's also about like, if I look at that, because I've had this exact same experience. Yeah. The things I did to get that, one, were either not really in alignment with me receiving that, and so now, many times going through that cycle, like now I've gotten to the point where like the things I know to do that, to receive that, and to hold that, are super dialed in. Yes. Like it's not 17 things in my morning routine. It's like 3.
Yeah.
Because like doing 17 things every morning is okay.
Yeah.
But like, no.
Yeah. Right.
It's not sustainable.
Right.
Because then the more thought you have to put into it.
Yes.
The less likely it's going to happen. And the thought becomes like friction. So I think it was James Clear in Atomic Habits. He talks about friction. The 2 ways to use friction. One is like decrease the friction between you and what you want, or increase the friction between you and what you don't want. So he uses the example of like someone trying to lose weight will put like the chips and the candy in the garage, in the cupboard, where they have to get on a ladder to go get it. Yeah. Makes them like exponentially less likely to go get the chips and the candy. Yeah. Or if you want to go to the gym, he says the one thing is like put your shoes right next to your bed, or make sure the first clothes you put on are your gym clothes.
Setting up your environment.
Just like removing friction between the things you want. So this is like receiving. So like these stories, these things we hold on to, there's friction there. Yes. So remove the friction, and it makes your lap is getting closer to the place where shit falls. Yeah. Because if you have the less friction, the less resistance, the more sustainable.
Yeah. I love that. That is, and what you just described too in your car form, I'm going to call it the car formula because it's so good. It's your vehicle, right? To get you to where you want to go. Because that's really what it is, right? You're constantly going back. So like the receivership is not actually, there's no how to or doing. It's just like do step 1 and step 2 and just do step 1. Yeah. Honestly, you're going to know when you're in step 2, when you're just feeling like, I can sit in this present moment and I can talk and it's okay. I don't have to write a book. I don't have to be a keynote speaker right now. I can just like have a conversation, right, with Sam, and like we can connect and we can just enjoy and we can work through this, like this experience. Yep. And so, honestly, the only work then is step 1. It sounds like, right? It's like be okay with whatever outcome needs to happen, knowing that the step 3 is like it'll fall in your lap because you'll align yourself to something, and then all of a sudden, like you were saying, like it could just be on the street. Like I got again random manifestation. My bank called me. This is last year, and they're like, "Hey, you bought a financial product 10 years ago, and we want to return that money." And we, come to find out there was some loss and damage in that, and some interest. So we want to return that money plus that. I was like, "Great! I do remember this product. I probably paid $600. It was like a silly something like credit defense or something, whatever." And turns out that was fraudulent, and the SEC came down on my bank, and so they needed to return that plus interest, and so I got $12,000 back.
After nice return
on investment, right? And I was like, but that was unexpected funds. Yeah. And in a moment too, where kind of everything was shut down, it was perfect. It was exactly what I needed, and I felt like. Fuck it. That was like one of those moments where I was like, I have made manifest that which I want. Look at me, I'm doing it. But in reality, I cleared out a lot of money shame and money guilt and money blame and all these things around money relative. And that came to me. Now, where I'm stepping fully into for me, this is for my receivership. I wanted to receive. Because I did want to receive just money. I just that was like the start. Like I just want to know, hey, can I experience money? Now it's like actually receiving with a little bit of an asterisk, like through my own hands, through my own work. And not to say I'm self-made, because nobody's self-made. We're all like, you're making me right now. You're molding me with your words and your wisdom, right? Like we're no one, street, right? Yeah, no one is self-made. I used to think that, but no one.
We're all connected. You can't be self-made.
Correct, right? But what I knew was, okay, now is time to receive. Through the essentially like stacking, right? Stacking an infrastructure. Maybe I start with a podcast. Then maybe, I do feel called to write a book. So I'm going to write a book, right? And so I actually have a book outlined. And then it's like, okay, well, once I do that, then it's like, well, I have this course that I'm about to launch, this event. And then maybe after that, it's a brotherhood or it's a something, it's like, it just creates stacking. And like, I don't have to worry about like step 11, just worry about step 1. Like, let's have a conversation. I love that.
Because if you worry about step 11 and you have 1 through 10, like first of all, you don't even know what step 2 is going to look like, really.
Exactly.
Like you think you do.
Yeah.
Like you might have a plan, and it'll look something like that. But you go through step 1, it's like building a program.
Yeah.
Like you build a program, and then you take someone through it. You're like, oh, this all sucks.
Yes.
Until you actually go through the steps, and myself included, like going to do something like Sacred Sons or ayahuasca or bufo, whatever it is. Yeah. Like you think you know. Yeah. You really fucking don't.
Yes.
Like you just like we think we know what's next. Like we know next. We're gonna sit here and talk for the next 15 minutes. Like or an asteroid could hit the Earth. I mean,
it's possible.
Not to be.
That'd be a hell of a way to go.
Yeah, like we're just doing a podcast and Armageddon,
and then all of a sudden,
but dun, dun, dun. Like, it's a very extreme way to make a point. But the point is like we really don't know what's next. Yeah, the perfect example. Like I was 2015. I was in an AA meeting in San Francisco, California. Yeah, and just normal day, and the meeting topic was like, I'm not into this topic. I'm end of my day. I'm tired. I want to go home. Yeah. Left the meeting early. Walked out. Got a call from the Asheville Police Department. Like, is Sam Morris? Like, yeah. Your father's passed away. Like, no. Like, I didn't. That was just like no idea what like literally like 1 second later, I didn't know what was coming. And like we do have plans, and like most of the time things do go according to plan, or at least kind of. Yeah. But like there's going to be moments in your life. Yes. And you just don't know. And this is the thing about like step 1 through 11. Like you do step 1 to the best of your abilities. Do step 1 well. Yeah. Not even the best of your abilities. Just do it well. Yeah. Step 2 will reveal itself. Step 3 will reveal itself. And step 11, if you set out with the intention of like, this is what step 11 must look like. Yeah. Probably not going to look like that.
I want to touch on what, actually going back to what you just described about getting that phone call, because I think this is actually really important, and then we can kind of wrap it up from there. But the CAR formula that you just gave is like really, really, really good. And oftentimes we, as men, or any individual listening, we're always thinking about, well, I'm going to move towards a potential and serve a higher purpose and live a fulfilled life and do these things. But what we don't recognize, and this is, I'll even raise my hand because I just sort of like, oh shit, you're so right, is there's always going to be that moment in life where we get a phone call. There's a diagnosis, there's a death, there's something that's just stops you in your tracks. And if you're doing the work almost like before you get to those moments, because those are breaking moments. Those are re-identifying moments of, well, fuck, if I'm not a son anymore, right? My father's gone. Who am I, right? Or I lost a business, and it was like, if I'm not this man, who am I? It's such a powerful moment to use what you were just describing, right? The CAR formula. But in reality, we're using the CAR formula not just to get us to the Ferrari and the house on the hill, even though we think, quote unquote, we think we're going there, but we're actually going as a way to almost like break ourselves of our own ways and our own patterns, so that when those moments come, because they will, everyone experiences those moments. Yes. Everyone. Yeah. That none of the word fortified is wrong. We're unbreakable, right? Like we can't be broken by those moments. And because we're allowing ourselves to crack and break and letting the light in and growing, and crack and break and letting the light in and growing. And we're going through the process of evolution naturally as a human, metamorphosizing from caterpillar to butterfly, back into caterpillar to butterfly. Like we're just constantly going through new levels of identity, releasing our ego, shedding that skin, whatever analogy is right. But we're allowing for the process of breaking. Oh, there's a crack. Yep, I accept that this is a crack. I don't identify as this person anymore. And just clearing a line. And yes, you're receiving all the way. But then there's that moment of deep fracture, like big moments, a divorce. It's like the 3 Ds, I feel like: death, divorce, and diagnosis, like
so true, man.
Those are like the main components of really breaking. Yeah. And then it's, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to respond instead of react? Yeah. What because if you're conscious to the situation as a thing, and you're not identifying deeply and trying to fortify around an idea of being a married person or having a certain number in your bank account or whatever, and you just simply allow for whatever happened to happen, then those cracks, those breaks, can ultimately lend you into being your unbreakable self.
Right.
Living as that.
And that's when you're, not to say like you call in like painful experiences, but like when you recognize quickly what they really are catalysts. One of the hugest catalysts I ever had in 2019 when that girlfriend broke up with me, January 12th. Got home from a trip to LA. I was like, okay, I'm going to go. She has the dog. I'm going to go get the dog. We're probably going to like lay around, watch TV, whatever.
Yeah.
She's like, I walk in, she's like, sit down. And I was like, oh.
Oh, this is that tone.
She's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I remember like cold and hot at the same time, like heart rate up, also depressed at the same time. Yeah. But that was, and for the next 3 months, pain. Yeah. Like emotional pain. Yeah. Like I've never experienced. Even with the death of my dad, the death of my sister, emotional pain I've never experienced. Yeah. But probably the most important experience that I've had in the last 10 years. Yeah. Maybe my whole life. Yeah. Because it totally catalyzed me. Like you said, like that, I was covered in like, I don't know, plaster or something. Like there was, like, I was just stagnant. I was a stagnant being. Yeah. And I was like, and the truth be told, like this was not the first time I experienced this. Yes. But this was the most painful version of it. Yes. Probably the third or fourth time I experienced this basically cycle. Like it's like a 5-year cycle. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, I was at a mastermind, a men's group down in LA. Yeah. And one of the facilitators was like, I told him, I was like, it was like a month after this, I don't want to be here. Yeah. I'm depressed. I just got my heart broken. I don't want to be here, but I came for some reason. And like this, I said something like, this always happens to me, or I always end up here. And he's like, well, stop asking yourself why you always end up here and start asking yourself why you allow yourself to end up here. Yes. I was like, kicking my gut. Yeah. But it was exactly what I needed, because that catalyzed the amazing growth for me. Absolutely. Like I wouldn't be sitting right here right now if it wasn't for that. I still would be like overweight in that relationship, pretty miserable. Yes. And so the thing is like things like that will allow us to see that like it's not just because the universe hates us or because source energy wants us to suffer. Yes. It's because this is part of being called to your higher self. Yes. This needs to happen. Yes. For you to be who you are. This is part of your soul contract. Correct. You called this in before you were born. Yes. Like this is it. Yeah. And it's all leading you to your North Star. Absolutely. That I'm just gonna drop the mic, hit period on that. Because that's the story. That's the story. Going to that. Dude, it's so good. All right. Talk to me through how can people find you, because you're guiding people through this car formula. I'm calling it the car formula. You did, but it's perfect. It's a good analogy. It is good. Yeah. Get in the car, fool. Get in the car. Let's fucking go. Be your best self. Yeah. How can people find you? What programs you got coming out? Yeah, we'll go from there. So Instagram's the best way to find me. It's at Sam Gibbs Morris. That's Gibbs Morris. Yeah. That's where I spend most of my time as far as content and stuff like that. Yeah. I have 2 retreats coming up this year. One is a men's retreat called a Surrender Retreat. And I actually I need to say this. So I spell surrender. SURRENDR. So no ER on the end. Yeah. Because in order to fully surrender, fully experience, you got to drop the ego. Yeah. So I took that last D out. That's a good one, man. Yeah, I did it with my men's program, my one-on-one coaching program. It's called Transcend. Yeah. And the last D is gone. I just saw like a little graphic where it's like, and then it drops it out. The ego. Yeah, totally. So like I spell like committed, no E. Yeah. Transcend, no E. Yeah. Surrender, no E, because it's just a reminder to myself mostly. Yeah. That like in order to fully get committed, in order to fully surrender, in order to fully transcend. Yeah. That destructive ego has got to get out of the way. Absolutely. It doesn't even have to die. Ego death, I don't believe in. Yeah. But it needs to get out. It needs to like just go in the parking lot. Yes. Go ride the bench. Yes. It can still hang out. Absolutely. But it can't run the show anymore. Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. So I have that one-on-one coaching program, Transcend. Okay. Which is 90 days. It's the car formula. Yeah. We clear, we align, we receive. Yes. And then I have the Surrender Retreats, which are men's retreats, which I'm going to do 4 of them this year. Yeah. Florida Keys, Wyoming, probably here in Austin, and then one maybe in Tulum. And then I have my partner Idrea, we do a 3-hour quantum alchemy journey, which is we do Bufo, and then she has a quantum crystal resonance bed, which we use for accelerated integration.
Yeah.
So we take them through a Bufo ceremony, put them on the bed for 45, 60 minutes, and they go through like the crystals like basically like let all the Bufo downloads land in your DNA. And so that's called we have retreats.
Check that one out.
Yeah, more than welcome, brother. That'd be amazing. So we do those. Those are 3-hour ceremonies. And then we're also building a retreat, quantum alchemy retreats, which are going to be. We have one I think in Costa Rica is what we're looking at.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll link in the show notes.
Okay.
And on the YouTubes and all that stuff, so that people can get a hold of you for any one of those.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna come check out that quantum healing, dude. That sounds powerful. Sounds potent.
It is.
All right, brother. Any last words? Anything for us?
I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, man.
This conversation was medicine.
Yeah.
And I think that you said something in the beginning about with the iron lung and the polio patients.
Yeah.
That is evidence that we are the only medicine we ever need.
Yes.
We don't need iron lungs. We don't need plants.
Yes.
I mean, the plants are amazing, and I love them, and like I'm all about it.
Yeah.
But like, we are the medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. Breath work. It's
presence,
potent.
love, connection. It's
all of my healing revolves around breath work. It's so powerful. All right. Well, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. And man, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Love you guys.